Nochime. We're gonna go ahead and get into day 4 of reading the Florentine Codex. Okay, and so yesterday we did this page. Let's get the book out, and today we're gonna do page 7, which is Tlaloc. Okay, so it says Iniknawi capítulo Itechpa Tlatoaya in Teotl in Itoka Tlaloc Tlamakaski. And this word, Tlamakaski, is the provider. This is interesting because this is like a literal, like a grammatical based translation, the provider. And the reason why they're doing it that way is because this word specifically means like a priest, okay, one who has served in a religious establishment. And so it's kind of strange to say Tlaloc the priest, right? And so we have to look a little bit deeper in this case. And Tlamaka, we can see, is part of this word. Tlamaka means to serve someone food. And so when we say priest, the priest is actually somebody who provides food or offerings to the Teteo. And the reason why they're giving Tlaloc this title, Tlamakaski, is because he provides food to us. Okay. And so our knowledge of grammar came in handy. Speaking of grammar, this Tlaloc is a very, very difficult word to translate, just like we saw with this Katlipoca yesterday. And the reason is because, a lot of these, that they're very old. And it's possible, the words the processes and words that were used to create the word are lost. They're no longer used. You can think of now what was once part of Euro-Aztec, and then it was also part of Proto-Nahuatl. And so there was different grammatical rules, different words, right? And so Tlaloc could be a very old word. And so therefore, we can't understand it with the grammar that we now understand. And so that's what's happened to Tlaloc and to several Teteo as well. But here's one explanation that despite its great irregularity in Spanish texts, from which it is known, it goes back somehow to Tlalo. Tlalo is one covered with earth. Okay, so I think this is I think this is Korochi's grammar. Okay, that was translated by James Lockhart, and so that's one explanation, right? So Tlaloc is the one covered with earth. Now, J. Richard Andrews, of course, has his own explanation because he's very thorough. And he defines it as one who lies or rests on land. Okay, so, I guess the two are kind of similar, right? One's covered by earth, the other one lies or rests on the land. And he actually has an explanation for that. So it's saying that it's a downgraded preterite as present agentive, and then C is the verb stem O. So they're saying that O here is the verb stem, which means to lie or be recumbent. Okay. And we do see this O uh, again, I always go back to Huasteca Nahuatl. Oh, I forgot to share my screen. Sorry. Let me share my screen. My camera's also not working, so sorry about that. But I was wondering why this was not working. There we go. Okay. So we have Kochtok. Kochtok, for example. Okay. I'll put it in the classical orthography. So if you say in Huasteca Nahuatl, Kochtok, that means that somebody has been asleep. Okay. So it's kind of like past tense continuing into the present kind of thing. Okay. Which is what he's saying happened here with Tlaloc. Okay. He's saying that the O is representing he's lying. Okay. Well, where is he lying? Well, he's lying on the earth, right? So he's lying on the earth. And so that could be explained, right? Through this process of the O. The O is a very short verb stem, right? It's hard to see a lot of times. But out of all the explanations, probably this one is, you know, is the best, I would say. So we could just say he's the one that lies in the land. But I mean, it's uncertain because, like the other source said, a lot of the Spanish sources said something else. So I'm going to reread this because I didn't have my camera on, but it's Inik Nawi Capítulo Itachpa Tlahtoaya in Teotl in Itoca Tlaloc Tlamakaski. And so, you know, we encountered a lot of these words already, right? So we should know this means the fourth chapter regarding Itachpa, regarding what they say or what they said, because it's past tense, about the Teot, who is named Tlaloc, the provider, specifically the provider of food, as we saw with Tlamaca, right? So let me show you that in my kind of updated orthography. This orthography, by the way, is still classical Nahuatl. It was developed later as, as the people writing about Nahuatl became better at using the Spanish alphabet, right? Like things kind of fell in line, and then they finally got like a better kind of orthography, which is still not not great still. Okay, but I'm writing in this orthography because it's what like people who are reading classical Nahuatl, that's usually how they read it. Okay. And so I could convert it into modern Nahuatl as well. For anybody interested, it would be like unique Nawi, and then Tlaloc would be like this, right? But a lot of people who study classical Nahuatl don't like that. So, it's more intuitive, I think, but we're just gonna fix it, you know, to this a little bit better orthography. So, yeah, that's what that says. Yeah, again, as the past tense. And so most of the verbs that we're gonna encounter are gonna have that yeah, okay? Because it's all kind of past tense. So let's continue on. Tlaloc Tlamaquiski, Tlamacaski, inin. So we said this, right? Ipan machoya. So I looked this up because I don't know, it just seemed like a strange construction. And it turns out the Ipan with Machoya is he used to be known or thought of as. Okay. So here, he used to be thought of as, and then this is in Kiwik. In Kiwik is the rain. Ka Yewatl Ki Yokoaya. Now, one thing I'll mention that I discovered, by the way, in between, like all of these readings, I always like ask linguists, these questions and things. And it's always good to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you know, that way, you can get your answer, your questions answered. And you could be supported in that way. There's a lot of people who support each other in the Nahuatl community. But one thing I wanted to mention is I think I mentioned it maybe before, but the thing that makes this hard to pronounce for me is because when in Huasteca, this is a class 3 noun, Yokoa. It's class 3. Basically, class 3 just means it ends with two vowels. That's it. Okay. Uh so like another one is Tlaloa, Tlaloa. So anytime it ends with two vowels, that's just a class 3 verb. Now, why that's important to note is because it was, how I told you, like, the Nahuatl has rules where, the vowels are not usually next to each other. Well, this is an exception. And this actually makes it a little more difficult to pronounce. Now, if we were saying this in Huasteca Nahuatl, it would actually be ki yokoyaya, ki yokoyaya. They add another ya, ki yokoyaya, but it makes it a little easier to pronounce because there's not that second vowel, right? And so for some reason in classical Nahuatl, the rule was like the second vowel was not dropped in the class 3, which makes it harder for us to pronounce it. Because here's another one. See, in Huasteca that would be quitemo yaya, quitemo. You see how much easier that is? But now we have to say quitemo yaya. Two vowels next to each other is difficult. So maybe that's like one advantage, to learning Huasteca if you want. A lot of people say that, like, well, John Garcia specifically had told me once that he felt like Huasteca Nahuatl is kind of like a simplified form of Nahuatl, which makes it a lot of the processes easier. So that's just an example of that. So if I'm struggling, it's because this is kind of new. But so we know that this is a pronoun meaning him, okay? And then Kiyoko Aya. Kiyoko Aya. This could also be it, by the way. Yeah, what doesn't have to be exclusively him. It could be it or him. Okay, for those of you who prefer like a more like scientific view of Tlaloc, it's perfectly fine to say it um, created. Okay, so remember this key right here. Okay, is referring to something. It's a placeholder. Every time you see the key, you gotta look um, for the noun. Like what is the subject? In this case, it's here in Kiawit. Okay, so um, let me go back here real quick. He was known here. He was known as the rain, and then all these verbs here, okay, are going to be referring to this. So it says kayewat. Kiyokoaya, ki temoaya, ki pishoaya in Kiowik. Okay, so he created the rain. He made all the rain go down, and he made the rain scatter. Okay, as if scattering seeds, and that's what these three mean. Okay, so that's those are verbs tied to the rain, and then it says iwan. Iwan again means and. Okay, in, this is an interesting word. It's tesiwit. Tesiwit. Tesiwit is actually hail. Okay, so they're saying that um, he creates, he makes it come down, and he makes it scatter what? The rain and the hail. So you see the structure of the sentence. Again, it's not like English, right? Like it's very foreign for us. Like usually we'll say he makes the rain and the hail fall. He makes the rain and the hail, he creates it, right? Like, but here it's not like that. It's like everything is in the back. And if you put it in the front, it's actually okay. If you say ka yewat in kiawit iwan in tesiwit ki yokoaya ki temoaya ki pishoaya, that's also it's also perfectly grammatically correct, and it means the same thing. So it's going to take some time to wrap your head around that, but that's just how now it is. And then it continues. Okay, it says, this is interesting. Ki shotlal diaya. And then Gits molinal diaya. So he sets fire to something. He makes something move. And that, okay, again, so that key, when I say something, it's just a placeholder, right? But if you want to know what it is, it's actually here. These are the nouns. Okay. So when I'm reading these verbs, I want to keep this in mind. He's talking about in Kuawik, in Sakat, in Tonacayot are the trees, the grass, and the corn. Okay. So he sets fire to it. He makes it move. By the way, those of you who are following the grammar, you'll see the tia ending is usually causative. So it's like he's causing the thing to do that, right? And so he's causing all these things to happen to these objects for something to turn green. Okay, the root here is a shoshowia. Shoshowia, let me see it here. Shoshowia. And then you got the tia, and that's causing it to turn green. Okay, you cause it to turn green because of the yeah. And then he makes it sprout or blossom. It comes from the verb queponi. We can see it embedded here, but this is queponaltia, which is a causative. Okay, and then you've got this one, iscaltia, to raise. Okay, so he's doing all of these things. Now, I don't know why it says setting fire. That one seems weird. Okay, and when you look at the translation, they actually don't say that. It says he caused the trees, the grasses, the maize to blossom, to sprout, to leaf out, to bloom, to grow. So they don't mention anything about that, right? So I think sometimes what's happening is like they'll see a verb and they'll be like, that's weird. That doesn't seem to go here. And they'll just kind of ignore it, right? That's kind of been the trend. But it's there. It's there for a reason. We can dig a little deeper. Maybe they're talking about like, there's when they burn the fields, right? After sowing. I don't know. It could be something. I don't know the answer, but maybe somebody else can figure that out. But or sometimes maybe that verb just means something else, and that's also a possibility. But one thing I wanted to point out is this maize corn, right? We're translating this tonacayot. This is what the words look like in the Florentine. This is sacat, tonacayot, and coahuitl. And it's interesting because the tonacayot, they're saying it's corn, which is fine, but the tonacayot, if you look in the Florentine, and I wrote an article about this on my blog at one point, but uh, tonacayot actually refers to corn, amaranth, um, corn, amaranth. Hmm. How could I forget this? There were four. There were four total. Here, hold on, give me a minute. Okay, so this is my website. This is my blog. Okay, so tonacayot is this. Okay, so here we go. It's actually defined in the Florentine, the same book as corn, beans, chia, and amaranth. Okay, so they're saying just corn, right? But if you look a little bit more carefully in the Florentine, it's actually not just corn. Tonacayot, by the way, means our sustenance. Okay, so um that's what gives us life, that's what gives us our flesh. Here's a bin of corn, a bin of beans, amaranth, and then chia. Okay, so I wrote this little article about it. You can read it, but basically, those foods were the most numerous when the Aztecs were asking for tribute. Okay, so we can make the translation a little bit more precise, but basically, all of the food, most important foods that Tlaloc causes them to bloom. And it says, and also were attributed to him the drowning of people and the thunderbolts. So it says Iwan and no is a new word. Also, itech means attached with it. So, and also attached to that. And then you have Tlamiloya. Now, Tlamiloya means it was brought to an end. It comes from Tlamia. This is the first time we see lo ending. This lo has been added to Tlamia. Lo is like a impersonal suffix. When you add lo, it's actually um, not specifying who's doing the thing. Like if you were following the eclipse, as they say, tlacualo, the sun is being eaten by the moon, and tlacualo has the lo ending. That means that it's being eaten. But I said the moon, but it actually doesn't specify anything. It just says tlacualo. It is being eaten. And that's the same thing that's happening here. Okay, it has been brought to an end, but by who? No, it doesn't say. So this is in contrast to their definition. And then here it says, okay, let's go back to their definition. So we're attributed to him. I think they just ignored it again. I don't think they translated it. But yeah, so what was brought to an end? It was brought to an end. That maybe they're talking about the lives of the people, right? It's kind of hard to tell, but here, I don't know why this is saying the Youngies, but this word we say it'll be like the ilakilisli, the ilakilisli. Now, whenever you see the lisli, that actually comes from it's a verb transformed into a noun. Okay, and so they translate it as drowning. More precisely, it means to sink. Okay, a sunken thing, but it means to drown someone when you have the te in front. So look, it has that te in front. This is from J. Richard Andrews again. So so that means it's drowning. But if you put tlaquilisli, that means something sinks, right? But this is talking about people drowning. And so then it says in tlaquilisli, okay? in Tlatequilistli, and that's the thundering. So that is thundering. They spelled it a little strangely here, but we can see that it's close enough. Maybe they made a little typo. We're not taking that into account too, right? Like maybe they make small typos here and there. Tlatequilistli, according to Cartoonist Dictionary, is thundering. It's very similar to this. And so we say, all right, yeah, there's drowning and thundering. And here they're just attributing that to him. Okay, so I don't think it was explicitly attributed to him, but I think they're just making an inference. Now here, I realized, oh, they have pictures of all these details, so I just put them here because the last paragraph is always going to describe what they're wearing. And I'll just read this all the way. So this is and inik mochichiwaya tlaixtlil popotzali tlaixolwili motlilosak ishmichiowe ishmichiowio awachikole awshikole hasta sone chalchiokoske posolkake no sitzerle hasta pilpane. Okay, so these are all compound nouns. Okay, so they're like adding some components together. I'll read what they translated it as, and then we'll go step by step. So they said, and he was thus arrayed. His face was covered with soot. His face was painted with liquid rubber. It was anointed with black. His face was spotted with a paste of amaranth seed dough. He had a sleeveless cloud jacket of netted fabric. He had a sleeveless dew jacket of netted fabric. He had a crown of heron feathers. He had a necklace of greenstone jewels. He had foam sandals and also bells. He had a green and white plated reed banner. Okay, so it's just listing all these things. But this, again, it says he was arrayed, but I want to remind you that mo chichiwaya means he dressed himself. Okay, so and so it's and in such a way, it would be the best one here, and in such a way he dressed himself, and then it goes into it, right? So this is tla ish. Whenever you see ish, we're talking about the face, okay, or in front of something. Aish tlil, tlil is tlili, tlili is the color black. Okay, so this is where they're talking about the color black, putting on his face. Tlaish olwili. Not sure what that. Oh, I think it's the rubber. Yeah, the olwili. Olwili, because the root ol can be found in rubber. The words for rubber, so that's definitely rubber. And then this is mo losak, so painted black. These ones, I actually don't know what those are. I tried to look them up, but this part is actually referring to the the paste of amaranth seed dough. So this must mean the paste of amaranth seed dough, which actually chia. Let's see what the word for chia is, because it looks no, not chia, amaranth. Let's see. Oddly. Well, oh, there it is. So it's a certain type of amaranth. So this michi that we're seeing, michi Woutli, is what is the amaranth. Michi. Okay, so michi. So these are the amaranths that they're talking about. Now notice how it says his face Actually, it doesn't have it there, but let me go to the next one. This has ending. We talked already about the wa ending, wa, and wa means the owner of that thing, right? So, like, let's put an example here. If I say Dutch wa, Dutch wa, what do you think that means? Dutch wa. Okay, this is the owner of this thing. That's the owner of rabbit, the owner of a rabbit or rabbits. We can say Amos wa. Okay, and that's the owner of books. But it turns out that there's two possessive suffixes. Okay, so the wa, okay, is specifically for vowels that for noun stems that end in vowels. Okay, so mostly e, Dutchly e, right? Those end in vowels, therefore we use the wa. But if it ends in consonants, then we have to use the eh. So they actually both mean the same thing. We just have to, learn to identify them. And so, I mean, that'll help us to know what these words are as well, right? So let's take a look. So this is awach, which comes from do, awachly, do, and shikoli, which means sleeveless jacket, which is how they define it. But that's why it says in the translations he had. You can also say he owned, he had, or he owned. And I noticed that I just said that we have to use the whenever it ends with a consonant, but Shikoli does not end with the consonant, right? So why are they using I don't know. Okay, but there's something going on there. So the do the sleeveless jacket that has a do design on it. He's actually not wearing a jacket in this picture, so I don't know. This is not very helpful. He does have the black paint though. This I think is just a repeat of this. I don't know. It looks to me like to be the same thing. And it says Astats Sone, and that's referring to the heron feathers. Astat, Astat. And then this one is when they're talking about the green jewels. The green jewels. So Chalchitli is the green jewels. Chalchitli. And then it's combined with ghostly, which is a necklace. And that's how they defined it. This one is actually a pluralized form of the e. Okay, so if you have que, that means that there's more than one. So the owner of multiple green necklaces, which I think is how they translate it as well. He had a necklace of green stone jewels, so he made the jewels plural, and then the sandals also plural. The next one is sandals. Kakli is a sandal, and then the bosol is foam. So I said the foam sandals, right? He owned the foam sandals. So this is making it plural because there's a ke. And then no, I think we encountered before. No, there it is. Also, okay, so also tzitzile, tzitzile, that comes from tzitzili. Tzitzili means bells. jingles, something that rattles. And the is he owns that thing. This is only one though. So maybe I mean look, there's no necklace on him. He's wearing the foam sandals, but there's no necklace. I don't know why they drew him and didn't include all of this, right? And then this is he owned the bells, and then this one is the last thing, which is a green and white plated reed banner. I don't know how that's there, but it's somewhere in there, according to Anderson and Dibble. Okay, so we learned a couple new things, right? So I want to reiterate that the the second vowel of class 3 verbs is not dropped in classical Nahuatl. It remains when we add the ya, so makes our pronunciation a little harder. And the means owner of, and que is plural of All right, so we're making progress. Practice these words because, like I said, the good thing about this, we're becoming more efficient as we go because a lot of the words are actually repeating, right? So this is actually how you learn language. Like if you if you read these grammar books just nonstop like this, you're actually not really going to learn the language very well. Okay, so how we're doing it is the way. This is the way to do it, right? As we go, like right now, like when we started, maybe I only knew what 40, 50% of the words, maybe even less, right? And then as we keep going, right? Because those words are repeating, we're going to add that to our vocabulary. And by repeatedly encountering them, it's going to become formalized in our brains, right? So we get to the point where we don't need to uh, define them every time. And that's how the learning process works. This is the most efficient way, just to jump in like we're doing. And this is called comprehensible input. Okay, I'm guiding you as we go, and we're actually learning the vocabulary very much more quickly than if even if we're using like flashcards, that doesn't work either. Those are very inefficient ways of learning a language. This is the most efficient way. Okay, so I hope that you're encouraged. I hope that you're feeling like you're learning more as you go. Again, I'm going to continue to do this every day. So I'll see you tomorrow. Tlaskamati, Timoetase.